I always had food intolerances. I just didn't know until I was maybe 20. Before I just felt sick all the time. Like my stomach was completely bloated. I had acne on my face and I just felt sick all the time and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a fabric, like a default in my body. Like I just came that way, like.
That's how most people think about their health. Yeah. Like it's just genetic. It's not.
Yeah, it's just the way I am. It's just I have to deal with this. And I just felt sick all day and I was just exhausted all the time. Yeah. All the time. Like even watching TV and binge watching Friends on the Warner Channel when I was young, that was tiring. And I remember I was thinking like, yeah, this is just the way it is.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lacey Grimm. If you haven't joined us before, I'm really excited to have Daniela Londoño Velez on our call today. She is going to be sharing some really interesting information about sort of clearing some things that might help you find relief for things like food allergies, maybe even money blocks, things that we feel like are just stopping us in our tracks or that we maybe don't even think that we have any control over. I'm really excited to hear about the techniques that she uses. But before we get started with some of those things, I really want to hear her backstory, as I'm sure you do. So Daniela, could you please share with us, how did you come into this line of work and what brought you here?
Of course. So actually this line of work was sort of like an organic thing that I just fell on. So I actually studied business administration. And before I did this, I had a business academy. If you look me up on YouTube, I talk about finance and all these things. Oh, awesome. And I've always been in the very rational side of life. However, I've had a huge curiosity for like the spiritual side. So ever since I was like 18, like crystals and angel cards and like reading about esoteric stuff and like tarot and like all these would just like spike up my interest. And I had it as a hobby inside the closet. Like I didn't tell anybody. I was like, yeah, what? Me crystals now? Like, no, I do marketing and all this. I was, Right. And so this went on. And the thing is that when I was 18, I started going to therapy because I just wanted to figure out some stuff that just didn't make sense in my life. Sure. And I thought therapy was like a gateway. And I started going and then I got introduced to all this different worlds of personal development. And I started taking courses, but just for the fun of it. And just because I wanted to learn. Now, at the same time, I've always been, and I guess I always had food intolerances. I just didn't know until I was maybe 20. Before I just felt sick all the time. Like my stomach was completely bloated. I had acne on my face and I just felt sick all the time and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a fabric, like a default in my body. Like I just came that way, like.
That's how most people think about their health. Yeah. Like it's just genetic. It's not.
Yeah, it's just the way I am. It's just I have to deal with this. And I just felt sick all day and I was just exhausted all the time. Yeah. All the time. Like even watching TV and binge watching Friends on the Warner Channel when I was young, that was tiring. And I remember I was thinking like, yeah, this is just the way it is. Like,
yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I was 18 and I started going to therapy and I started understanding that the way that we think and our thoughts and our feelings affect our life and affect our body. And I was like, might my allergies have to do with something like that? So the first time I was 20 when I read about irritable bowel syndrome. And I was like, those symptoms sound like what I have. Yeah. So I went to gastroenterologist and they gave me pills. And then I went to dermatologist and they gave me pills. And all these pills were like short-term remedies. And of course, all these doctors had the best intentions. But 2 months afterwards, my stomach was still hurting. I still had, acne on my face whenever I ate. And I didn't know what it was that was triggering it. And so I started to look and I started to go to acupuncture sessions and I started drinking, Bach flowers, those drops that you drink.
The Bach remedies, yeah.
Bach remedies. And I started going to like biomedic doctors and getting really into just alternative medicine to see what was going on. Until finally I went to a normal doctor, like a Western doctor, that was also an acupuncturist, and he was also a Kundalini instructor. Like he was one of those guys that was very curious, as myself. Yeah. And so he was the one that first told me, like, I think you have food allergies, and I think your food allergies, the symptoms that I'm seeing in you, it seems like it's triggered by gluten, by this, by that, by that. And he gave me a list of things that could have triggered me, and he told me, like, you know what? The only way that you can stop feeling bad is by stop eating these things. And oh wait, there was like sugar on the list and milk and dairy and gluten and like everything. And I was like, what am I going to eat? Like bird food? Like what? Yes, I cried for 3 days because I was, I was a sugar addict and I loved my cookies and I loved my breakfast. And I was like, what am I going to have for breakfast? Everything has dairy in breakfast. Anyways, I decided that it was more important for me to not feel sick than to enjoy, my food. So I did this. And of course, I started feeling my health was coming back. Good. And I started feeling like I wasn't feeling sick anymore, and that I wasn't, feeling so drained of energy anymore, and that my stomach wasn't that bloated anymore, and that my acne was going away, and all these things were happening. However, this meant that I just had to have a really restricted diet forever. And so the thing is that when you are like very consistent with your diet, you can be as disciplined as possible. But the thing is, going out to eat, going to restaurants, going to a friend's house, going traveling, it starts sparking up fear everywhere you go. Like going to a restaurant, I wouldn't even look at what I liked. I would look at what I could have, and I grilled each waiter about like, does this really not have dairy? Like I cannot eat dairy. And in the States, restaurants are really responsible, but everywhere else, like if you go, people are just like, that doesn't have dairy. Just a little bit of, Parmesan. Just a little bit of Parmesan, but it doesn't have dairy. And you're just like, no, I can't have anything. You do not understand how bad it is. Yeah. And the thing is that you sort of live in fear because you never know when it's going to pop up. And when it does, you feel terrible. And the only thing that you can do, in my case, was go to the acupuncturist and have him help me. But you become dependent on the doctor that you're going to. And that really sucked, And so I went on like searching for crystals and for that, just because that was my innate curiosity while working in tech and while working in fashion. Like I went on with my normal rational life, but with this like spiritual side in the closet. And about 4 years ago, I came upon spiritual response therapy, and sort of by accident. So I was having a really rough time with one of my close family members, like a really rough time. Like we were fighting a lot. I didn't know what it was, and she didn't know what it was, and we were both in pain. We're just like, why is this relationship so bad? And so I was going to a medium at the time, because I was into that. And she was like,
all over the place. I love it.
All over the place. I was very curious, just like super curious. Like somebody told me some technique and I'll be like, ooh, what's that? I would look it up, read it. Like, definitely my curiosity led me to places. And so I was telling her about my relationship, and she was like, you know what? I think the trouble that you're having is karmic. And I was like, what? Okay. Interesting. Tell me more. I've never heard that. What do you mean karmic?
It's different.
And so she started telling me like, you know what? The thing is that the energy that we have in our body, with ourselves in our body, and the relationship that we have in people, doesn't only come from what happened in our childhood, as psychologists say. It comes from many, many different lifetimes and the thing is that energy is kept in a storage called the Akashic records, which is basically like a memory drive. Like imagine your hard drive on your computer, but storing the memories of all that has happened in thousands and thousands of lives. The Bhagavad Gita, the sacred book of in Hinduism, actually says that we have reincarnated on this earth 1 million times. So imagine the amount of lives that we have lived and the amount of karma that we have in our Akashic records. And so she was saying like, it seemed, because it's not something that happened in this lifetime. Like that energy doesn't correspond with the events that you told me that happened. Like this family member and me had never like fought and killed each other. Like we'd never, like none of that energy that I had inside and that she had inside. And so she started clearing, and I felt the energy shift in my body. Like I'm a high empath, very, very, very high empath. I feel everything. And I was like, I felt the difference in my body, and I was like, what is this? This is amazing. This is amazing. And so she was like, it seems like this is something that you're gonna feel very connected to. She told me, I recommend that you get yourself certified, because I think it's a tool that you can use for yourself. I was like, let's do that. Let's get certified. So I got certified as a hobby. I did it for myself. Whenever somebody asked me like, what's that pendulum? I was like, it's to scratch my ear. I wouldn't say anything, And then I got like the 2 certifications. I got the certifications, the SRT certifications, where I could now offer the service professionally, but I only did it for myself. And this was until like maybe the beginning of this year where I started feeling I have a business academy for Spanish speaking entrepreneurs, and you can find my stuff on Google, on YouTube, and I had this fractional business, which made me very happy and filled me with purpose. But I started feeling at the beginning of this year of 2020 that I needed to talk about energies, because I kept on seeing that even though I was teaching somebody about finance and about marketing and about how to grow their business, if the energy wasn't right, if they didn't feel it was true, if there was things blocking them, they wouldn't move forward. And so I gave these financial workshops and felt people stuck after I did the workshop. And then as soon as I did SRT, there was a shift. And all of a sudden, Like, all right, so it's important to talk about energies first, because if our energy isn't right, what we do in the world is just not going to align. And then coronavirus happened, and COVID happened, and then quarantine happened, and all these stuff started to happen. And I remember the week that we got quarantined here in Colombia, I had a workshop that I had to cancel. And so what I did was not cancel it, but postpone it. And I offered each person in the workshop like a one-on-one session with me, just to, before, so that we were prepared when we actually were able to do the workshop. And I sat down with one of these people, with one of these students, and she was panicking. Like, obviously she was panicking. She had to close her store. Like, she didn't know, of course, everybody was panicking.
What's
going on? So I remember just, watching her and thinking, like, there's nothing in my business tool arsenal that I can give this woman for her to feel at peace so that she can make the right decisions. And I was like, you know what? You're not gonna expect this from somebody who's gonna teach you finance, but I have a pendulum and I'm going to clear your energy. And she was like, all right, let's do it. And she started, like, as soon as we started doing the session, I started feeling her energy level going down, like her stress levels going down. She coming up with different ideas to what she could do in this time. And I was like, man, I think this is out of all the things that I know how to do, because I'm pretty curious, and the same way that I've looked my way into the spiritual, I've done that with like marketing and with finance and with all these other things. The tool that I think right now, and the way that I can better serve people at this moment is handling their energy, is clearing stuff so they can move forward. And so, so that was that. It all just made sense. I was like, yes, energy work. And so this was something that I was doing in the closet for a very long time. And I sort of came out of that spiritual closet about 2 months ago and started saying, like, this is what we need to do right now. This is what we need to
do. How you can serve people. Yeah. No, I love that.
Exactly. So energy helps everywhere. It helps in our, like, with our relationship with money, with our relationship with our families, with our relationship with our purpose. However, it's super effective with food intolerances, phobias, and food allergies. It's very effective. I've been a live testimonial, and I've helped other people clear theirs as well. So I'm just like a witness of myself and of others of how you do not have to live with food intolerances for the rest of your life.
It's so interesting to me. That's so interesting. So I've actually done a little bit of, it's not called the same, but it's more like generational kind of digging and how, the past of even just our ancestors, how it and how that just, it makes complete sense. Because this can seem a little woo-woo, but in my mind, I'm like, but this makes a lot of sense actually, because
exactly.
In reality, you can't just erase everything that happened to your grandparents, because that is a way of, evolving and adapting and becoming a piece of the environment around you. And we retain that in our DNA. So, I mean, working through that is really important.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very cool.
And we choose the families that we come into because there's lessons that we need to learn. So that's also true. So karmically, like, before we reincarnate on this earth, we're just like, so what do I want to learn in this lifetime? Let me choose this family that has this certain type of, genetic karma, so they can come up and learn the things that I came to learn in this life.
That is an interesting perspective. I hadn't heard that. I like that. That's neat. Okay. So explain to us, who would your perfect sort of customer be? Who do you want to work with?
All right. So who do I want to work with? Initially, it depends on what subject we're treating, but for food intolerances and phobias, I want to work with a customer who was like me 5 years ago, who very disciplined, does not want to be sick,
Mm.
And so restricted diet and
Yeah.
doing all the things and being very like conscious about their food process and very,
Mhm.
very strict about their diet, but that they don't want to live like that anymore. You know,
Yeah.
somebody who's doesn't want to feel sick and does everything in their hands to not feel sick,
Right.
but sometimes just food creeps up
Yeah.
in their diet for no reason. That's the client that I want to work with. Obviously, the people that do come to me are people that are open to alternative healings. That are normally they're empaths.
Mhm.
Normally they're empaths. So normally it's somebody who has a high sensibility and a high sensitivity,
Mhm.
that has tried acupuncture before, or has tried Reiki, or that has a pack of angel cards, or something in the spiritual and esoteric and alternative realm. That is the time that normally comes to me.
Okay. So what would you say to somebody who is a little bit skeptical of what you're sharing?
So I would say the following, and it's worked for others. Just try it out.
Mm-hmm.
Just try it out, because it's only gonna take, like, in one session you will see a difference.
Yeah.
In one session you will see a difference.
That's
It might not be cleared in one session, but in one session you will see a difference. And yeah, that's basically what I would say. I would encourage them. Obviously, it's important that you resonate on some level, even though you feel skeptical, even though you feel like, this is weird. I've never heard, what do you mean past lives influencing the way my body acts? It makes no sense. Even though they're skeptical, there's something inside them. If it does resonate, if you're curious,
Mm-hmm.
come. If you're not curious at all and it doesn't resonate, then I think maybe somebody else could be a better provider for you.
Sure.
But if it does resonate, if something about hearing about past lives, or about being an empath, or about energy blocks in your body is like, I don't fully trust it, but there's something in it that I find it maybe interesting,
Yeah.
then I invite you to come.
Okay. All right. And you do have a really fun free resource for people to learn more about what you do and
Yes.
get a clearer understanding of if you might be a good fit for them. And that's a free ebook, and I'm really excited about that. So can you tell us a little bit about that ebook that
Of course, of course. So that ebook is free resources because people have so many questions, and it's normal. Like, this is a whole way of thinking. What do you mean past lives? You know, what do you mean karma? Like, what do you mean the Akashic records? This is like the whole, us Westerners are not educated, are not like socialized to think this way.
Right.
So in this ebook, I sort of explain what I've been able. I tell my story of what I have gone through in order to heal myself. I tell the story about karma. What is it? What does it mean? Where does it come from?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean karma? I explain it in a way for people who have never been in touch with that word and with that way of thinking. And then I also talk about the energy blocks that I keep on seeing as a pattern in the people that I clear energy, food allergies, and specifically food intolerances.
Okay. Yeah.
Which are basically three.
Yeah.
And the first one has to do with past lives. I'm going to leave it at that so they can read. The second one has to do with, this is very typical for empaths. So if you've read the book, there's a really good book by a doctor named Judith Orloff, called The Survival Guide for Empaths. And she says that empaths tend to have very sensitive digestive systems. And what I've been able to see in SRT and doing these clearings is that the underlying feeling that is triggering the reaction of food allergies in our body is the feeling that we have no boundaries, that our boundaries are porous, and that we cannot protect ourselves against people that might hurt us.
Wow.
So that is one, and I've seen this in every single person that I've cleared, this underlying feeling that I can't protect what comes in, which is what empaths feel. So it's very normal that if you're an empath,
I can totally relate. Yeah.
Exactly. And then all these allergies and food intolerance sort of like show up in your body. So that is like one of the most recurring underlying feeling. It doesn't happen to absolutely everybody, but it is a very like common pattern to see.
Yeah. And actually, if I can just share a little bit, I've come to define empaths. I think people are like, I don't know what that means. What are you talking about? And for me, when I think about I tend to be an empath for sure. And what I hear recurring in my life is people saying, you're being too sensitive, you're taking it too personally. Yeah. And that's just how we are. We're just wired to feel everything. And so when you hear that word empath, if people have said that to you, you're likely an empath. Or if you've said it to someone else, you're probably not an empath.
Exactly.
You're okay with other people being sensitive or feeling things and emotions.
100%. And the thing is that there's a scientific explanation for that. So Judith Orloff, in her book, she says, like, you know what? We have a thing called mirror neurons, which is basically the neurons in our body that are able to sense what other people think, what other people are feeling. And this is something that all human beings developed in order to survive. This is the reason why Darwin says that we've been able to survive as a species, because of our compassion, because of our empathy. The thing is that there's a 10% of our population has these mirror neurons a little bit over, like, they're very powerful. So they can feel more than other people. So it's not only
superpower.
Exactly. It's a superpower. It's a superpower. And it's actually a physiological thing. It's just our mirror neurons are just more active than
sensitive. Yeah.
Exactly. Than the rest of the people. So we feel more, we are more intuitive. We can feel the energy in a room. We can feel the energy in other people. And the thing is that we don't only feel that somebody's sad, we sort of like, it feels like it gets in our body. We get supercharged with people. Yeah. And for me, that used to feel like a curse. And I was like, oh my God, why am I so sensitive? Like, this is horrible. And then when I learned how to hone it, and when I learned about crystals, and I think that's why I was so interested in the spiritual world, because the spiritual world gave me answers to be able to understand what was happening to me, like why I came into a room and just felt like a jolt of like anxiety or a fear, or when I sat next to somebody who was in a bad place in their life, I just felt drained in their energy. Yeah. Once I started getting like certified in these techniques, now I can clear myself. Now I can just like develop a new superpower, which is to understand how other people are thinking, to understand how other people are feeling. And that's one of the things that it takes a lifetime to sort of understand how to hone. And it is a superpower hidden in a lot of pain for a lot of empaths, because pains of allergies, pains of food intolerances, pains of just feeling that people are just too much, pains of wanting to be alone, you know?
Yeah, totally. All right. So this is really exciting. I'm excited for people to connect with you. So check out her free ebook. We'll share a link with all of our posts. But one last thing I want to ask you, Daniela, is what is something that you do every day? Just a simple thing, maybe not even related to the SRT, that you do to help yourself stay feeling your best.
There are a couple of things that I've used. So there's two that are very easy. The first one is one of the things that I do as soon as I wake up, and it helps me just clear my mind. And I know this sounds very cliche, but I do meditate. I meditate. It helps me so much. Yes. It helps me so much. And two types of meditation. So I really like a practice that's called Kundalini yoga, which is basically, it's yoga, but with breath work. And there is a breath that's called the breath of fire, which is going like, this clears our energy system like nothing else. So if you just sit down as soon as you wake up and you put your fingers in this mudra, in this way, like your hands like that, and you just do the breath of fire for 3 minutes, it will make you dizzy the first time you do it. And probably the first 2 or 3 times that you do it, but then it's just like it cleanses so much. So that's a wonderful exercise. Then the second thing that I do, so that is a specific type of like meditation in a way. Then I do like normal I do a type of meditation which is just like I sit down, I lay down on the floor on Shavasana, which is like just laying down on the floor, and I put crystals in my chakras. So actually I have them here. So for example, when I'm feeling, and I one of the things that I do a lot is, depending on where I am, I carry crystals around me. So at the beginning, for example, of quarantine, I used to carry this crystal, which is an amethyst, around me, because this crystal absorbs negative energy and then transforms it into calmness. So when you're feeling,
right? Yes.
Amazing. So when you're feeling very anxious, very scared, and just like, just grab a crystal in your hand, just breathe into it, and the crystal will help you transform that energy.
Mm.
And this is just super simple. It's just buying an amethyst, something that anybody can do. And actually, one of the things when I taught these finance workshops, when I saw, because the people who went to these workshops were normally creatives, like designers, and as soon as they saw numbers, like their energy, like their stress levels just went really up.
I maybe can relate with that.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what, like everybody grab a crystal while we do like costing and while we do with numbers, just grab a crystal, because this is triggering up anxiety. And when we have anxiety, we can't think clearly. That's just like, that's just the way it goes. So those are two things that I really recommend that are very easy.
I love
because then there's other stuff like I wake up at 5 a.m. to meditate for 2 hours. That's what I do.
Oh my gosh.
That's how I keep me calm. But that's like, it took me
you don't
2
have
years
to,
to get there.
But that's
you don't have to do that. It took me 2 years to get there. But if you want to start now, just grab a crystal and do the breath of fire the
3 minutes.
The breath of fire, the meditation for 3 minutes in the morning, and you will feel the difference.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Those are amazing tools. I love it. Thank you so much, Daniela. It's been really fun to talk to you. Your energy is high and exciting and fun. And so I'm thrilled
Thank you so much,
folks. I can't wait for them to check you out. Everyone, please share this information with anyone that might benefit from it. And Daniela, check her out and connect with her, and have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I'm so grateful to be able to talk to your audience about these things that seem woo-woo and seem weird, but are so effective. It's crazy.
We need to connect with them. I love them. All right. Thank you.
Much, much love.